It is The World This Week. 7 days, 4 Paris-based correspondents, 1 hour. The World This Week in partnership with the Daily Beast. Enter foreign editor Christopher Dickey. How are you?
Oh, I'm feeling very good today.
No necktie.
It's a little hot outside.
Okay, it is warm in the French capital. And the French capital to which we welcome. He's usually based in Brussels. Franco-Australian political cartoonist Nicolas Vadot of Cartooning for Peace. How are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you.
Also joining us, Ana Navarro Pedro, who no doubt got a sleepless night on Wednesday. She is Paris correspondent for Portuguese periodical WIBAUX. Thank you for being with us. And France 24 Chief International Affairs Editor Robert Parsons. The World This Week, where you can join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter, the hashtag F24Debate. It was just before 9 p.m. local time in Dallas, Texas, Thursday night.
They're shooting right now, and there's an officer down. It's coming from the right over there, from around these buildings.
Against another week of outrage over the killing of African Americans by police, first in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, then in a suburb of St. Paul, Minnesota. Authorities in Dallas now say there was one lone gun, that he was upset about all the police shootings. They also say it's a heavy toll. 5 killed, including a transit cop, 7 others injured, along with 2 civilians.
There are no words to describe the atrocity that occurred to our city. All I know is that this must stop, this divisiveness between our police and our citizens.
Christopher Dickey talks there about divisiveness between police and citizens, and our own reporters at the scene in Dallas this Friday saw mixed reactions inside the African-American communities, a lot of bitterness.
There's a lot of bitterness. If you look at the videos that were coming out this week, if you look at the videos and the incidents that go back to Ferguson a couple of years ago, there's this building sense that we are discovering now what the black community has known for a long time, that there are 2 different standards of justice, that if you are a black man driving a car, you're in a lot more danger when the police stop you than if you're a white man driving a car, that the cops will kill you and then tell the world that you had a gun when you didn't. All that is being disproved, or has been disproved in individual cases on video, and it's created a huge amount of anger. But having said all that, I think that an incident like this is the kind of incident that can suddenly make people sit back and think, wait a minute, too much hatred is building, too much anger is building. That's exactly what the police chief in Dallas was saying. We've got to stop this. This divisiveness has got to end. And in that sense, this horrible incident may be the shock that was needed to make people sit back and think.
Because there is this phrase that's been coined, blue lives matter, and police officers who wear blue, and it's the question of how that plays with the Black Lives Matter movement.
Look, I think the host of The Daily Show last night was saying, even before this incident, we have to understand blue lives matter, black lives matter, lives matter. This is not a political game. This is life and death for a lot of people. And you certainly cannot have a situation where you are, as the old revolutionaries said, exacerbating the contradictions, trying to make the cops hate the blacks more, the blacks hate the cops more. There are people who want to do that. And on social media, they can do it anonymously and feel really good about it. Mika Johnson, the man who was blown up after carrying out this sniper attack, his Facebook page is full of that kind of diatribe. Who's responsible for that? What are these nominal groups that he was following on his Facebook page? A lot of them you never heard of before. So it's a dangerous environment. But I think sensible people will sit back. And I think the people, even including the people in the Black Lives Matter, will sit back and say, wait a minute. This was a peaceful protest.
They're saying that up to now they've been peaceful.
And they were peaceful. They were peaceful. And there was a terrible period immediately after the shootings in that crowd where the cops clearly felt they were under siege. And they were pointing guns into the crowd and ordering people in the crowd to come forward and lie down and be handcuffed. That, of course, didn't go down well with that crowd. But nobody was hurt during those incidents. Nobody was hurt during those incidents. And I think one of the things we have to remember when we talk about this is that the 5 people who were killed were all cops last night. There were no people in Black Lives Matter were killed. None of them were injured. They were all cops who lay dead on the ground there.
All right, Christopher Dickey mentioning how social media acts like a bullhorn these days. The attack in Minnesota that took place earlier this week was particularly shocking. It was a first in a way because the victim, Philando Castile's girlfriend, streamed the aftermath live on Facebook.
He's licensed. He's licensed to carry. He was trying to get out his ID and his wallet out his pocket, and he let the officer know that he had a firearm and he was reaching for his wallet, and the officer just shot him in his arm.
I told him not to reach for it. I told him to get his hand out of it.
You told him to get his ID, sir, and his driver's license.
She says that Ana Navarro Pedro, that it was because her 4-year-old was with her that she had this sort of presence of mind to stay calm when you can hear that overexcited policeman. But what does that do? That use of Facebook Live?
Well, I believe it's a way of being a witness live. I was very surprised with her calm and with her demeanor. But indeed, apparently, if people are not extremely calm in these situations, they may get shot. You wonder about her feelings, but that is not the point here. The point here is that this type of use of social networks being live on the site of these shootings, seeing in this case what was going on, seeing on the other case in Minnesota, a man was being put to the ground and he was shot. In Louisiana, sorry. And yes, Baton Rouge. And there was even more shocking because there you see just someone say he cannot move, he's really on the floor, and someone says he's got a gun, and just pulls his gun and shoots him. That, I think, was even worse. And the state of shock from these 2 videos is inducing a wave of hatred. Now, you've told us that there have been the same wave of hatred before, but maybe they were not fed with a continuous stream of comments, so lacking so much any kind of thinking and reasoning. But what I was surprised about the police chief from Dallas was he was doing a political statement. He was doing what the politicians are not doing in the United States. We just saw today that one former Republican representative, has issued a statement on Twitter, I believe, but not sure, but I believe, saying, "Watch out, Obama," and basically threatening lives of Black Lives Matter and almost Obama's life, and saying it's going to be war. And this is the general tone of people intervening in social networks. So I'm extremely worried about the general anger and lack of capacity for sitting back and trying to just put some calm in the situation.
Robert Parsons?
Yeah, well, as Christopher was saying, we've known about these figures actually for a long time. It's not like there was some big secret that's only just been revealed because of social media. There's been plenty of evidence, plenty of academic evidence about the problems in American society, about the disproportionate number of black people ending up being shot in these sort of situations with the police, but nothing has been done about it. What's changed dramatically, I think, over the last few years is social media, as you were pointing out.
I've seen it.
Instantly, in this particular case, instantly, on Facebook and then on YouTube and Twitter, we're seeing these images, and it changes an awful lot. It supercharges the atmosphere, and that's really what we're having to deal with now. Suddenly everybody is being confronted with the evidence of what academics and a few experts have known about, but have by and large not done an awful lot about it. Not nothing, certain things have been done, but suddenly it's all out there in the open. The energy that is giving to the situation could work, as you suggest, I think, for the better in this particular case. But equally, unless something is done very quickly, I think it could have the opposite effect. If we don't see that genuine measures are made on the part of the government to try and do something, to try and affect some sort of change. If it's more drift, and another incident happens, I think there could be an explosion.
We saw this week the Los Angeles Police Department touting the fact that they have their body cams now. Of course, the body cams didn't seem to work in Louisiana for some reason.
Yeah, I had him in Louisiana.
And, Nicolas Vado, your thoughts on this, whether this will be a moment where people stop and take stock of what's happening, or where they just sort of
I wish they would,
inspired.
but I doubt it, because we've seen so many killings in the past 20, 30, 40 years, and it's one of the big failures of Obama's presidency, I think, the gun control thing. And I can show you a few cartoons from Cartooning for Peace. I have three in one from Bill Day from cavecartoons.com, and it's a wonderful piece. It's in 4 images, because you're talking about images. We cartoonists have to digest these images and show them to the public. I don't know if we can see the cartoon, but you see it's in black and white, and the form adds to the meaning, because it's in 4 panels. Dad, I have a question. What is this? It's your birthmark. There's one on your back too, which we can't see. And what's really wonderful about this cartoon, it's a shadow theatre cartoon, because the form adds to the meaning, because the world is divided into black and white, and the image is divided into black and white, and you can't see the faces. And as long as you can't see the faces, you have to imagine them, and that's what our job is to do, to show the less so you can see the more in the picture. And the other thing is the deep contrast that you have in this particular cartoon about the intimacy of the father and son thing, and the loneliness of the white that's around them. So that's a very powerful cartoon. Another one from Lysa Donnelly, which was made 4 years ago, I think, but that's the thing with cartoons about massive shootings. They're never obsolete, because you can show them 4 years afterwards, unfortunately. And this one deals with one of America's big values, which is freedom. And of course, the torch is replaced by a gun, and the torch means light, and the gun means death. So there's a big contrast with the two. And the other one is about Barack Obama's failure, and we go there to sign language, and he's really
the caption reads, between the lobbyists, the gun lobbyists, and the Second Amendment.
Yes,
which is the right to bear arms.
He's really torn apart, and he's caught in a stranglehold, because he's got the two things in front of him. He can't do anything with what his power is supposed to be, and I think it's very powerful too.
Is there anything more Barack Obama could have done on gun control?
I don't think there's very much more that he could do, given the state of Congress and the way Congress has tried to stop him, even with the most banal kind of legislation. It's just too hot. I think that people will react eventually. You know, it's interesting, if you look at what was happening in Dallas, I think a lot of people who, for instance, support the law in Texas that allows you to carry a long rifle around with you anywhere. There was an interesting video, or interesting still pictures that came out. The first suspect was somebody that the police had photographed at it looked like an earlier protest march, a black man in a camouflage outfit carrying an AR-15 rifle, an assault rifle, just carrying it over his shoulder at a Black Lives Matter protest. Yeah. That's legal in Texas. Now, I wonder...
And considered normal, apparently.
And considered, well, normal enough. And I wonder if the people who've been saying, yeah, everybody should be able to carry a gun, if they look at that and think, well, wait a minute, does that really make sense that everybody should be able to carry a gun? And we're going to look at Mika Johnson, and we're going to see probably that his guns were legal. He probably bought them legally in Texas, because it doesn't take much to buy them legally in Texas. So then are we going to say that black people can't have guns, but white people can have guns? Is that where we're headed? Once we head down that absolutely insane road, maybe there will be some measures to bring guns under control.
Now, the Washington Post keeps tabs on fatal shootings by police. It says the number for this year is up 491 in the first 6 months of the year, compare with 465 for the same period in 2015. And the numbers they come up with are quite staggering because something like 21% of the victims are African Americans, and something like 25% also have mental health issues. So you really have all three in one, which is the three problems: too many guns, a race relations issue, and also a United States that doesn't deal well with mental health problems.
No, it doesn't deal well with them at all. It doesn't know what to do about mental health problems, and it makes it easy for people with mental health problems to get guns. Look, I mean, the U.S. Congress can't even decide to tell people who are on the terrorist watch lists that they can't have guns. It's insane. The whole situation has become insane, and it all has to do with this bizarre reasoning that any measure that controls guns in any way heads down what they say is the slippery slope, and they're going to take guns away from you. Nobody ever seems to read the Second Amendment that says basically you're supposed to be part of a well-organized militia in order to have guns. But you know, that somehow the Supreme Court in the last 20 years or so has just thrown that reasoning out. We'll see if the new Supreme Court, because there will be a new Supreme Court shortly, we'll see what they have to say about it.
Well, year after year, shooting after shooting in the United States, horror after horror, we have heard people voicing convictions or hope that this time gun control would come all the way to the United States. And we never see it. It's just so embedded in, I believe, in American culture.
Oh, it is. It is. I mean, it goes back to slavery days.
Nicolas Vado?
They did it in Australia in 1995 and it worked. Because they had a huge problem with guns in Australia, and there was a massive killing. A young man killed 28 people in school, I think, in the mid-90s. And they did implement the gun control thing. And, of course, it didn't work for 1 or 2 years, but afterwards it did work. It's a small country, but they have this Far West culture, shooting kangaroos in the bush, but it did work. So it could work in America, but I don't think Americans actually want it. Democrats nor Republicans, I don't think they do want it.
The vast majority.
I'm not American, but
the vast majority of Americans do want it. They do want.
Are you
better
sure
gun
they
control.
do?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
more like something like 80% are in favor of better gun control, not taking the guns away, but better gun registration, better keeping track of who's buying guns and how and why and when. That's not actually a controversial issue with the American public. It's a controversial issue with a small fringe of people who actually, what is it that they really fear? What are the real gun advocates? What is their mentality? They believe that they need to have guns to rebel against the government of the United States. That's the argument they use. Seriously, that's the argument they use. Otherwise, why do you need an AR-15 or an assault rifle in the United States to defend yourself? You don't need it. You only need it if you think you're going to take some kind of bizarre military action. The core of the gun lobby is essentially an anti-government lobby. That's why it is in lockstep with the Tea Party and these groups. This is not about freedom. This is about the threat, the hatred of the central government. And that's always what it's been about. If you read the Federalist Papers, you go back to the arguments for the amendment, for the Second Amendment, what you find again and again is that it's about having a force that can rebel against the government if the government becomes oppressive.
All right.
That's what it's about.
Speaking of
just one thing, just as a,
very briefly,
just as a caveat to the figures you were talking about just now. I was reading yesterday, after this had all happened, that there's been considerable positive change as well. I think that the number of people that have been killed in these sort of police shootings over the years, since in the last 35 years, has actually over that period fallen by 70%. What hasn't changed is the disproportionate number of African Americans who are being killed.
All right. When we come back, we're going to be looking at